Who did you find was the toughest bowler to face?
Well, I mean, there's not a lot of easy ones, but I always go back, and we're talking about this on the weekend as well, but we faced Rodney Hogg one day with about 6 overs to go, getting a bit dull out there at Dandenong, and I mean, that was scary. I've never seen anything so fast. He hit a fellow called Lachlan Stonehouse in the helmet, and Stonehouse was still getting headaches 2 or 3 weeks later, and found out that he'd had a fractured skull through the helmet.
Gee.
So yeah, that wasn't much fun facing Hoggy. But you know, rarely did you face Rod. But generally, it was pretty tough. I mean, there was a guy called Dennis Hickey was another very fast bowler. He broke Graham Matthews' arm one day when I was up the other end. But there was a lot of good bowlers, you know, a lot of good bowlers. Even those left-arm orthodox spinners used to annoy me. That Alan Melbourne from Fitzroy Doncaster. Right. So yeah, I had to work pretty hard for my runs in district cricket. But yeah, that one spell from Rodney Hogg would just stand out above all others. And there was some reasonably, you know, we faced some international players and things like that, but Hoggy was unreal that day. And he was 39 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was unreal.
You were lucky you didn't face him then.
Well, I did. I tried to get some sense out of him over the years. Like I've asked him, could you bowl faster than that? You know, how fast were you bowling that day? Could you bowl faster? Did you bowl faster in test? And he never answers. He just says, "Oh, I'm not fast. Brett Lee's fast."
Right. Yeah.
But he was frighteningly fast. You know, so yeah, that's one spell that really just stands out above all others.
Yeah. As I mentioned, fantastic career at Sth Melbourne in particular. Did you get close to the state squad?
Not really. I mean, the problem I had was that, you know, I made that 200, let's say, and then I made 13, 5, 18, 12, 22. But the last game that season, we played Northcote, and we were two for none, really, so they kept the field up. And I actually got 85, and it was like an hour before tea. You know, I'm on 85, and I got out playing a really, you know, expansive back foot drive, caught it backward point. Yeah. And I honestly think that perhaps if I had to put another really big score together, then who knows, maybe, but consistency just wasn't there.
Yep.
And plus by then, you know, I'm getting to 26, that sort of age. Yeah, I wasn't close, you know, so, but you can only just do your best.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Preston were indeed fortunate to pick you up. How did that come about?
Well, I went back and had that season of district cricket, which was an interesting season because, you know, I had a young son then. I was very busy with work. But Graham Christie was the president there, and I'd played with him in the seconds as a kid. I really liked Graham. Mick Mitchell was the coach. They wanted me to come as assistant coach. Initially to perhaps do the sub-district team, but then the sub-district team didn't eventuate, the Hawthorn Monash then. And so just to play. And yeah, so I'd played that season at Hawthorn, but you know, getting up at leaving home at 8:45 in the morning to be at the ground by 9:45, and it was just I just thought, no, this is not the way to go. So with Preston, well, I mean, it's just down the road. I knew the ground was a good ground. I always liked the ground. I think I haven't mentioned this, but I told you before that I'd watched Preston play in a final in about 1998, around that time, and I just thought the atmosphere was fantastic. It was a game against Malvern. You know, Weary was playing. I think either Molly or probably Molly in those days was captain. Shane Day was playing. And it was a pretty close game. The crowd was yelling out. Ron Howland and Ian Fraser were playing, I think, for Malvern. And then there was a decision given not out, and Daisy threw himself up on the ground and laid flat on the ground. And then someone was yelling out from the boundary, and then there was a run out between Howland and Fraser, and then the crowd are into Fraser as he's walking off, and Ronnie's not happy with Fraser. And I thought, I've got to play this one day. I've got to play for this club. So it just looked like a good club to play for. I knew some people. Peter Cawthon, Carpy, I used to get out on the gas with him a little bit. Well, that's typical, isn't it, of the phone ringing. So I used to get out with Carpy a bit and a few of the Preston boys. Ross Lawler was another one. Okay. And then I knew Brad Whitefield, Weary pretty well. I knew Greg, didn't know Greg real well, but I knew Greg, as I said, played against Stewie Hensley, Tim Jessel, those sort of guys. And I thought, you know, I actually just rang up and said, look, I'm not playing Premier Cricket next year. You know, are you interested in it? yeah, that sort of just went from there.
What a coup. Because you went on and played 114 games for the club, won the club championship 3 times, batting average 5, bowling average 3,
Yeah.
and coached as well as captain for a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, that's extraordinary. Who took the phone call when you rang?
I think I rang Weary, actually. I rang Weary and said, ring Hobbs and see if you want a player, because there was a couple other clubs, Noble Park and Yarraville and that were interested. But I just, I remember doing the drive to Yarraville just to see, and it just took too long, and I thought, I really wanted. So it took, typical of Greg, it took him a fair while to get back. It wasn't straight away.
Okay.
And then I think there was a bit of, working on it. But well before the pre-season was to start, I'd sort of signed up, but I really looked forward to it, because I knew some players there, and the club was successful, and you knew that everyone was going to give their all. So, yeah.
So you had pretty good teams over that the period that you were there of 6, 7 seasons.
Yeah.
I was just looking through the honour boards, and unfortunately in that period we didn't win a premiership, but for the quality of players we had. What are your thoughts looking back on it?
Well, my thoughts are, because I went back through all the old handbooks in preparation for this, and I wrote some things down here. So I said in 04-05, I think that was my first season, we had a fantastic team. There was Molly, there was Stu Hensley, there was Charlie Guerrero, I'm pretty sure, was opening the bowling. We had Greg, I think Bam Bams was playing as well. We had Whitey, Brad Whitefield, Weary was playing, I was playing, TJ was playing. I think Matty Hyde was the wicket. So that's probably the best team I played in.
Right.
But I'm not sure we prepared as well as we could have. You know what I mean? It was pretty cash. And we got to the last game and we needed to win. We put 190 odd on the board, I think, in a one day. We looked pretty good. And then we just got beaten in the end and we missed the finals. I think Greg had sort of conjured up an outright win by letting Mount Waverley the week before believe that if they beat us outright, they could make the finals, which they couldn't.
Right.
And somehow he got him to declare, and then we got this unlikely outright. So that was unbelievable. So, but I really think if we could have won that game, we would have caused some damage. That particular team was very strong, and we weren't really old. Even I was only mid-30s, and so those boys were younger. Greg really wasn't, Greg was a little older than me, but we're in the right spot. We're just probably a little inconsistent that season. But there was other seasons. I wrote down that almost every other season bar one, in the 9 seasons I played, we missed finals. There'd be a final 4, we'd finish 5th, and we were half a game out, finished 6th, we're 1 game out. We had some monumental stuff-ups as well, you know what I mean? Lowy made big runs against Brunswick one year, and and then they got home right at the end, and Molly hit a ball just wide of someone to win on the last ball, and then that knocked us out. And we were in the finals, and then we mucked up against Caulfield, only chasing 100, and then so we had those sorts of things. But we did have some strong seasons. I mean, we had some very good coaches. I mean, obviously Greg was fantastic. Orazio San Lucia come along. Now, he tidied things up a bit. He's got a lot more at training, and that seemed to help us. We were a bit better organised then, and that was off a poor season. We came good, and we just missed the finals. And then we had David Tate come along. And that was our biggest problem, was that we didn't have David Tate and John Shannon and other guys when they were 28. We signed him at 46.
Right.
So Tatey's hammies weren't that good, but he still bowled well, batted very well. And under him, we had 50, 60 at training, 10 people missing out on a game. We were on top of the ladder. And then we got knocked off in the last game and played in the semi. Everybody else got washed out. Melton, their covers got blown off, of course, overnight. But for some reason, we put extra covers out.
Right.
And after being set up, this is, I think, 08, 09, after being set up to play a 2-day final, of course, the subbies rules were a bit weird. We're playing a 1-day knockout final. As I said, nobody else played, and we played. Lost the toss. I was captain, lost the toss, and we're batting. And we only got 130 or something, but the other team, we pushed them right to the end. You know, it was in dispute right up to the end. But yeah, we just couldn't quite do it. So in the 9 years I played, we were only in the finals twice or three times. There's only 2 times we weren't within one game of playing in the finals. So very competitive. But as I said, I would have loved all those guys to come together as in their youth, you know what I mean? Yeah. It would have been a very strong team. We had some good players come through too. We got some good overseas recruits. Mario was really good. And of course we played in the final against Melton. He did his hamstring. So nothing went our way. I said this to you before. I don't know if I can really say this, but I will anyway. It appeared as though the 2 umpires were Melton Life members. They're actually on the board. Yep. We had 5 LBs against us. We ran Butch Gale out by, seriously, I don't know how far. And even that game was very tight. So, you know, we
just didn't have the luck you often need.
Yeah, and I think the youth and we weren't consistent enough during the season to stay up on top. We had teams that could have been, like we had one year, I think we lost every game to Christmas, right? So it was, the wheels were off. Yep. And then we got 3 outrights after Christmas. Right. And we were just smashing top teams.
Yep, and you're back in it.
And we missed by half a game.
Right.
You know, so we just were pretty, there was never a dull moment at Preston, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Never a dull moment.